Hello everyone, and today I will be talking about the luckiest queens from Drag Race. These are the queens that, through seemingly random chance, performed a lot better on their seasons than they originally would have. The first lucky queen from season 14 is Lady Camden. The first few episodes of season 14 for Lady Camden can very easily be categorized by the phrase good, not great. She was able to show off a lot of technical skill with her ballet and her sewing, but she was never really able to break through to the judges. From these episodes, it was very clear that production wanted a finale combination of Angeria, Willow, Cornbread, and then probably Bosco. At the beginning of episode 5, Cornbread has to medically withdraw from the competition. Prior to this episode, production had a pretty clear vision of what they wanted for the rest of the season. Cornbread being gone absolutely blows that apart. Now that Cornbread is gone, it's pretty much a matter of right place, right time, and luckily for Lady Camden, she is in the right place at the right time. I don't know if it was the edit or Lady Camden stepping it up or something else entirely, but as soon as Cornbread is gone, Lady Camden starts slaying. She gets a high placement in the commercials, then a high placement in the design challenge, and a win in the acting challenge. This is incredible news for Camden, as she now has a story arc of being robbed of a win and she has momentum in the competition. Lady Camden is able to keep this momentum going for pretty much the rest of the season, ultimately winning the acting challenge, Rusical, and Rumix, tying her for most wins in the season. I do not want to discredit how much work Lady Camden put into this season and how well she did, and while I do think Lady Camden would have gotten very far in this season due to her own merits, I don't think she would have done as well as she did if Cornbread was still there. Production having that open slot at the finale at the exact same time Camden starts to pick up momentum was incredibly lucky. I think if Cornbread was still there, Camden would make it pretty far, maybe even to the end. In the actual season 14 finale, Camden had the second best fan vote and the best track record, and was 100% a contender to win. If Cornbread and Willow were both at the finals, I would bet money that production would pick them as the final two over Camden. Next up, from All Stars 3, we have Kennedy Davenport. I say this as someone who absolutely loves Kennedy, but this was not Kennedy's season. On season 7, Kennedy was a legitimate contender for the crown. She had 2 challenge wins, she had been in the top a lot, and she was in the bottom twice. On this season, she was not really able to channel that energy in the competitive portion. She had a great start with the episode 1 talent show where she placed safe. Then she placed in the bottom 2 for the Rusical. She was able to redeem herself with a win in the Bachelor Acting Challenge. Then she very unfortunately flopped on Snatch Game. She was safe in the ball. Then she was in the bottom for Girl Groups and the Final Acting Challenge. Looking at the track records for the season, Kennedy starts off pretty strong and is able to keep pace with the rest of the cast for the first 3 to 4 episodes. Then towards the end of the competition, she kind of starts to lose momentum and never really recovers. In terms of points, we have BB and Shangela at 24, we have Trixie at 22, and then we have Kennedy at 15. This is not a good sign for Kennedy, as regardless of how well she does in the Rumix, she probably wouldn't be making the final 2. Kennedy's saving grace would come in the form of the jury. This season, likely to emulate Survivor and deal with the fact that we had a returning winner in BB, production decided to implement a jury twist to choose the final 2. This twist absolutely saves Kennedy. As we established, Kennedy was not doing well in the competitive portion of the season, but where she was really able to shine is interactions with the cast. Kennedy was obviously very close with Chi-Chi, and from what we have seen throughout the episode and the season, she was well liked by pretty much everyone in the cast. The only person in the cast who really had any beef with Kennedy was Milk, as they had a feud for the first few episodes of the season. The queens do their kitty girl performances and meet with a jury. Kennedy gives one of the greatest and most heartfelt jury speeches I've ever seen across Drag Race and Survivor. She's able to talk a lot about her experiences after the show, and it really wins over the jury. In the end, of the 6 jurors, Aja, Ben de la Creme, and Chi Chi DeVayne all pick Kennedy as their first choice to make it to the final two. Then Morgan McMichaels and surprisingly Milk choose her as their second choice for the finals, leaving Thorgy as the only queen who never selected her, as Thorgy was voting based off season performance. Kennedy was voted into the final two with 8 points to Trixie's 7, BB's 2, and Shangela's 1. Due to the fact that she won the season, Trixie got a lot of heat for this, but Kennedy did make the final two solely because of this twist. It was fully deserved, and I'm glad Kennedy got to shine, but if it had not been for this twist, Kennedy very likely would have been 4th place. Next up, from All-Star 6, we have the Dr. Reverend Silky Nutmeg Ganache. In the competitive portion of All-Star 6, Silky did not do well. She got a low placement in the talent show, a safe placement in the ball, and then was eliminated in the advertising challenge. This track record is relatively representative of how she did. I would have swapped her safe placement and low, but overall, still pretty fair. Silky's luck comes in episode 10, where she is given an entire episode dedicated to how incredible and talented she is. It is the returning queen lip sync SmackDown, and going into this, Silky does not have good odds. Based off no scrubs, the bar for Silky was incredibly low, but through every stage of this episode, Silky was able to show off new sides of her personality, and it was just really fun to watch. I don't remember who said this, but someone said about halfway through this episode, it shifts from just a regular returning queen challenge to just a showcase of Silky's talent, and that is very accurate. If this was any other type of returning challenge, things probably would not have gone as well for Silky. This episode was just back-to-back a great showing for Silky, and it ended on a great note for her, coming just short of returning. Hypothetically, a queen would want to return, but in Silky's position, her track record in the first half of the season was so bad, she probably couldn't take it home no matter what. Getting cut right before the finale was a great thing for Silky's career, as many fans wanted more of the post-glow-up Silky. They would get that on Canada vs. the World, where Silky would come to absolutely slay. She would place 2nd overall, and it was just a great season for her. I am willing to say that I don't think any of this would have happened had it not been for the Lip Sync Redemption SmackDown on All-Star 6. Any other returning challenge, Silky would not have gotten to shine as much and likely would not have returned, and likely would have gone down as just another All-Stars early out. The next lucky queen from season 16 is Amanda Tori Meeting. Amanda's first episode of Drag Race does not really go that well. Her talent show is middle of the road at best. It's very much giving Pandora Box, and a lot of the other queens view it as okay, not good. Then her runway is an incredible concept, but the execution is just not fully there. To top this all off, Amanda is rated 7th in Rate a Queen almost entirely due to her runway. This is not a good episode for Amanda. She is very much being pushed as the butt of the joke, and that's really not what you want to see for yourself on Drag Race. As soon as Plain and Amanda begin interacting, all of this turns around. On one hand, you have Plain, who is an incredibly polished queen. She has great runways and a great idea of her aesthetic. Then you have Amanda, who has weaker runways. This creates the perfect recipe for a feud. On one side, you have Plain, who is very much playing the villain, and then you have Amanda, who is the ultimate underdog. It really does suck that Amanda's Drag Race experience was ruined by Plain. While the ends don't justify the means, in the end, I do think Amanda is better off that Plain was mean to her. If Plain had just not interacted with her, Amanda would have gone out at the exact same time, but would not have been a fan favorite. Instead, she would probably have been remembered as a crunchy runway queen who wasn't quite ready for Drag Race, and while it does suck that she was the victim of Plain's villain arc, I think the fan support she has gotten has boosted her career far beyond what it would have been. Another of Drag Race's luckiest queens is Kitty Scott Claus, once again due to a medevac. It is no secret that for the first 3 episodes of UK Season 3, production was desperately pushing a narrative of Victoria versus Crystal. They were both very dominant forces in the edit, and they lip-synced for the win against each other in episode 1. This would all come to a close when, due to her knee, Victoria was medevaced. Production's plans for the season have yet again fallen apart, and now it is a matter of right place, right time, who will take that final slot along with Crystal and Ella. Unlike on season 14, where Camden was really the only queen in the right place at the right time, this season is a competition between Kitty and Scarlet. Scarlet won the first challenge after Victoria was gone, while Kitty was a great narrator and relatively strong in challenges. Ultimately, this competition would be won by Kitty, as Scarlet began to flop challenges while Kitty gained momentum. Just like Lady Camden, Kitty Scott Claus is able to gain a lot of momentum in the second half of the season. She's able to win the Fugly Ball, win the acting challenge, and is high for her final challenge in the roast. Once again, I don't want to downplay how much effort it takes to make it far on Drag Race, but through the lens of production, I don't think production would have let Kitty do as well as she did if they had their original finalist picks of Ella, Victoria, and Crystal there the entire season. While in the end, Kitty did not take this season home, I do think she did very well and she got to shine in ways the edit likely would not have let her if Victoria was still there. Hey, it's Drag Race Rejudged. Do you want gay shit? Well then check out the RuPaul's Drag Race Rejudged YouTube channel and hit subscribe.